Hello and welcome, everybody. I'm Crunchy Big. Hold on, I forgot the.
Nope, that one's going in.
Yeah, we can keep that. Sure, why not? I'm Crunchy Bagels,
And I'm Neon Manta.
and we're back. After the heated debate that ensued last time, we all had to take a month-long break from the show so I could finish molding, coping, and seething at Neon's despicable takes. But is it possible, however unlikely, that this will be the beginning of a new age of Sangatsu love in Neon's heart? So with that, let's talk about September comes in like an August, and out like an October. But before we do that, make sure to subscribe, like, comment, share with all your friends. We are a small podcast. That means that we benefit heavily from word of mouth spread, sharing it everywhere you can. So please, if you enjoy the show, do all that good stuff. And with that, let's get back to the podcast.
The podcast called Castaway Anime, by the way.
Yeah, I don't even know what was going through my brain
you were
that
doing
time.
actually a really fucking good job. Everywhere else, you just kind of forgot to name drop the show.
It's whatever. Just call it Canton 2, I'm sure that'll suffice.
It might as well be. So yeah, here we are with season 2 of March Comes Like a Lion. We're finishing up the big trading of our favorites marathon. Technically, because Owl House is technically not over yet, but it's gonna be ending soon. But we're definitely gonna finish Sangatsu before Owl House finishes totally.
Almost certainly.
Yeah, this episode, because it's been unfortunately sandwiched in the middle of to date the recording. It is currently December 26th, 2022. It is being sandwiched between the holiday break and Chainsaw Man, which will be the final episode of the year. So this is gonna be an episode tucked in our little back pocket for when we have like an opening gap in the schedule while we're waiting for seasonals to roll out. So we can just throw this one up and take a week off or something.
I mean, hey, considering how dry next season looks, I'm sure we'll have plenty of opportunities to talk about Sangatsu no Lion.
Yeah,
and maybe Bleach finally.
Hey man, Ayakashi Triangle's gonna go crazy. We're gonna have to put all our resources towards covering that.
Sure, man. Ayakashi Triangle is gonna be the new hit. So what did you think about this block of episodes, and do I deck you?
I will say, I don't know whether it's because it's a Stockholm Syndrome that I've just been absorbed in the Sangatsu, the quicksand, the void, the Grey Goose scenario for so long that I've just become used to it, or if the show has just actually gotten a lot better with its storytelling. But I did find a greater appreciation for this experience with Sangatsu than I did, I guess, the entire first season of the show.
Something interesting that I noticed. Okay, so for a bit of context to this, right? So back when I first watched Sangatsu no Lion, my general take on the show was that the second half of season 1 was the best part, followed by the first half of season 2, followed by the first half of season 1, followed by the second half of season 2. And granted, it's all a 10 out of 10, it's all based, but I definitely did have that hierarchy in my mind. I think I've changed my mind because this block was better than the last one. Obviously, it's all great, but I was having a real good time coming back to this show. And granted, part of that is that we're finally getting to episodes that I haven't rewatched before, so this is only my second time going through them. And so maybe it's just because, it's like not as fresh in my memory, so I'm going back and picking up on new stuff. But like my biggest problem with the last block, right, was that so much of it felt like the manga but also there's head tilts. That problem is almost entirely gone now.
Yeah, the
Like, there's
presentation's got a big fucking dose of life, a big direct syringe of life injected into the veins.
And see, it's weird because I always thought of this show as looking consistent the entire way through, but I feel like they really got to grips with the directing in this season. There's more shaftisms, there's more of those delectable non-diegetic color changes, there's some incredibly intense moments, and all in all, like, there was a bit of, oh, that feels like a bit of a just take a scene from a manga and add head tilts to it in like the first few episodes. But once it, hits the ground running with the whole bullying arc, which I'm sure you'll have a lot to say on,
I
once it gets
was
to that, the directing is like pretty much phenomenal all the way through. I cannot think of a single time where I thought it felt hollow.
Yeah, you were saying that like the your least favorite part of the last block of episodes was how it was all kind of a bit moving manga esque, and with the with just some cookie cutter shaftisms to try to make it a little more visually
Not all
impressive.
of it, but
Yeah, I'm not.
significant
I
chunks
don't
of
mean to
it.
like make it sound like it's unwatchable or boring to watch. It's definitely very pretty in frame to frame. It's never ugly.
Yeah, it looks consistently good the entire time, even if it isn't always the best animated. But, it also happens in Monogatari where sometimes it's just, it feels like a normal show, but occasionally a character will tilt their head and it'll be funny or something. I don't know. But yeah,
So
this.
yeah, I was just saying. My biggest problem with the last block of episodes that I harped on for quite a while was the even though we were including all of these different side characters, they felt like they added nothing to the story and were just there for I don't know, fucking emotional support or just to provide commentary, their thoughts on the big shogi arc of Shimada and Soma that was going on. This has taken that and addressed it directly. It feels like a bunch of different characters are getting equal spread of development, are getting the spotlight shown on them with almost equal time amongst all of them. Obviously, Ray is going to get the most time in the spotlight because he's the main boy, but it feels like the Kawamotos are not getting like sidelined completely or to be brought back for when we feel like we need to bring them back. They feel like they're a more integral part of the story now. They especially again with like you said, the whole Hina bullying arc, which we'll get to at some point. That'll be a whole topic of discussion. Um the whole stuff with Nikaido and the newcomer tournament. There's stuff going on with we get to take peeks into even they're not very long. They're pretty brief, mind you, but even like the peaks we get to see in the characters like what was it, Junpei from the newcomer tournament and Gotoh and Kyoko and their quote unquote home life. It's very nice and refreshing to share the spotlight between all these different characters.
So, last episode of the podcast, I was talking, sort of hyping this up as like, at least to me, when the show really basically becomes what it sort of was always meant to be, in the sense that it's, I guess at the beginning you could say it's about Ray, but come season 2, we now have an entire arc where Hina is essentially the main character of that arc. And what it really becomes then is an ensemble drama about the interweaving lives of all these different main characters as opposed to just Ray. And I think the most interesting way that is explored in the entire show is present here with how when Hina starts getting bullied, this is sort of related to the bullying arc, but not, entirely about it. But we get to see the it's almost like I would describe it as a ripple effect where we get, the initial incident and the people that affects, but then it just keeps on spreading outward as we get to see Grandpa's reaction and, how it affects Ray emotionally at different points, and how even when he's, doing a Shogi tournament, he then immediately, rushes back in order to help Hina, and it just keeps on having all these ripple effects through so many different people. We get to see Hayashida Sensei react to the event and give his 2 cents to Rei on how he should handle it. And that to me is the core of what Sangatsu no Lion is, in a sense. I guess one of the main things at its core, which is all these different people coming together, because that is the message of the show, to, get together with all the people you love and, fight the world together. And you get to see them basically taking on each other's problems, and where one person's strength helps everyone else be strong, and how one person's weakness means that everyone else is emotionally hurt by it at first, but then tries their best to help them in this huge web of just character relationships and how they respond to things.
Yeah, you mentioned I'm trying to remember what it was specifically. Mentioned Ray. Yeah, the show's about people like finding places to belong and like coming together to celebrate belonging somewhere. And it's very fitting that we start the season uh the start of the first and second season to just show how far Ray has come. It's very nice, very George Lucas poetic-y. Ray starts the show with like, even though he has the Kawamotos to turn to, he doesn't exactly feel like he belongs anywhere. He doesn't really feel like he's friends with the people that he is pretty much friends with, like Nikaido and the Kawamotos. He kind of feels like an outsider looking in, that they just happen to let in occasionally, and he just happens to like, oh, I guess I can hang out with you guys, because like, what the fuck else am I gonna do when I'm not playing Shogi? Now season 2 opens with Ray, our boy Ray. He is smiling, he is having fun, he's teaching the based fucking Shogi Science Club boys how to play Shogi, and they're showing him how to fucking make Ramune.
He has come, like, it's all such very natural development where you don't even really feel it so much in the first season. Obviously there are moments where it's very obvious what he's going through, but season 2 I think really, like you said, with the Shosai Club, and also with him essentially at this point, he's like super close friends with Nikaido, whereas in at the very end of episode 1 and start of episode 2 of season 1, he was like just
Annoyed
trying
with
to
him.
get Nikaido away from him. Yeah, at all costs, just get away from me. And now, him and Nikaido are super close, which is a good relationship to establish for certain events that we shall get to.
Yeah, I wonder if the fat kid with who is known to have a pretty bad health condition is going to die at some point in this show.
No comment.
I know this motherfucker's gonna die. I'm bracing for the inevitability. As soon as he fainted in that in the newcomer tournament, I was like, I knew that this tubby fuck could only, his expiration date is coming.
Well, I guess it's time to get into the show proper. So, what aspect or plot point do you want to start with first?
Let's start with Ray and how much more bearable he is this season as opposed
Well,
to
I
last
wouldn't
season.
phrase it that way, but sure, go ahead with your thoughts on that.
Well, he's become more bearable, at least to me, in the sense of they've maybe it's like this just happens in the manga and Shaft adapted it as such, or maybe Shaft realized, hey, this motherfucker is constantly in his own head and can come off as a bit of a pretentious prick sometimes, or the writing can make it come off that way. So let's tone it down a smidge and maybe put more of a focus on the dialogue between characters rather than the inner monologues, uh and also to use it to progress the plot. And it's made Ray a whole lot more enjoyable to watch. Like sometimes there would come points in season 1 where I'd be like, oh man, this part of the show is like so interesting, or like I'm kind of getting absorbed. If I really hope there's no Ray inner monologue that's gonna come in and derail the entire scene to be like, hey, look at how art house we are. Are you not blown away by the symbolism and the meaning?
I feel like you're just allergic to monologue.
That hey, not true. I enjoy Death Note. That is my answer to that. I
Okay,
enjoy
fair,
Death
fair.
Note. I was going through a quick laundry list of shows that are famous for monologues in my head, and I'm like, that one. I could have also
But
said
yeah,
JoJo.
I'd bet a hellacious amounts of money that is also present in the manga, because it is sort of a plot point as in a sense where at the beginning Ray is just so caught up in his own head, and it uses monologue as a way to sort of show that, where even, going down a walk through town, he's like thinking about his past and all the things he's going through, in sort of this very harsh, distant, lonely, uh cynical way. I'd go so far as to say even cynical. Yeah, he is very cynical at the beginning of the show. And this season, he's not nearly as much like that. He's a lot more joyful and lively, and he has fun talking to people, and he emotes now. He has emotions. He shows them on his face.
There are two moments specifically that make me actually no, there are three moments. Three moments. I just remembered the third one. Three moments specifically that Ray of three Ray moments within this block of episodes that made me like, "Oh, you know what? You ain't so bad of a guy, Ray Kiriyama." The first one is when he's uh it's when Hina's getting bullied, uh, and Akari is like going down all of the laundry list of like things like they could do to help, or like all the people that could help out in case there was a situation at school that they have to get involved in, like parent teacher kind of stuff. And then Ray, for the first time in like the entire show, he raises his voice around someone. Like he's always very soft spoken. The only time he ever like shouted and let it all out, he was by himself in the playground, which is also a really good moment for him. But this is the very first time that he ever like speaks up in a way so like he specifically says when Akari's like, listen, all the people that she could turn to help, he goes, I'm here too. And it catches Akari off guard, and she smiles and laughs afterwards, being like, wow, that's the loudest I've ever heard you. I was surprised by that. And it's a very good moment because like you can see, just it shows just how much uh Ray has grown. He's dedicated to helping Hina through this big issue, helping the Kawamotos, because he does feel a little indebted to them for helping him grow into the person that he is now, as opposed to the sad boy loner that he was in the at the start of the series. That was epic. That was a certified banger. Two is his whole drive, even though it doesn't make like he barely puts much thought into it in the long term. He just immediately going into the short term about it. Is when after Hina gets bullied and becomes really affected by this, his immediate thought is to, okay, I'm going to take this instance that my friend has gone through, and I'm going to let it inspire me to implement anti-bullying measures at fucking my own high school, just like to fight against bullying in general. He's gonna take the he is no longer playing shogi. Fuck, excuse me. He's no longer playing shogi just like to better himself as a shogi player. He is now winning to win the prize money so he can use it to fund his anti-bullying campaigns in his school, which
Hold on. Am I the idiot or are you? Because I have the reason why he was getting the money, at least I thought, was that he was basically going to pay the Kawamotos directly, and Hayashida Sensei even makes a big deal out of it, like, oh my god, no, don't do that. Wait, how do I stop Ray from doing this? I see the writing on the wall. He wants to pay them back monetarily for helping him out so much.
I think maybe that was part of it, because I do remember that, and I remember specifically a line where Kawashida is like, "Hey, I know like your heart's in the right place, but you're gonna make your relationship with them feel more like transit and like uh I don't know. I was trying to think of another word, but transit seems a very good one. And like quantifiable. There you go. To put a monetary value, to be like, hey, all that love and appreciation you've given me, I appreciate it. I don't know. Here's a couple $100. That should make us square, right? That should is an this money is comparable to, you know, this familial bond that you've shared with me, right. But I could have sworn that he was going through all this planning in his head to uh take a good portion of the money he won from his matches to fund his anti-bullying campaign.
Not gonna lie, dude, I have like zero recollection of that.
Wasn't that like the opening to what fuck episode was it, 3, 4, 5 of this block, where he brings in a book of anti-bullying measures to Kawashida, and he's like, I want to use the prize money to get these funded, and then Kawashida in response pulls up like a website with a list of like bullying and anti-bullying forums.
No, that was Ray asking Hayashida how to help Hina out because she was being bullied at her school, and Ray thought that another teacher at another school, the only teacher he really can talk to, would know more about how students are getting bullied than he did.
I specifically
advice.
have this note that says Ray dedicates himself to winning matches in order to use the prize money to fund anti-bullying campaigns in his school. Like there's no way
to be fair, I am very dementia brained. So
there's no
I
fucking way
legitimately
I could even if I missed the point and it was directly to just pay the Kawamotos. Like, there's no way I missed the point that hard. I could have sworn he had specifically gone out of his way to write like anti-bullying plans and said, I need money to to fund them, to put them into motion at our school.
I need to figure this out. Hold on, I have the episode up.
Yeah, I think it was episode 5.
I'm at the beginning of episode 5 right now. Yeah, it is episode 5.
Yeah, so while you're doing that, I'll just bring up the third certified based Ray moment, and it's when it's also like the one that I loved the most, which happens at the very last episode of this block in episode 11, after Ray won the newcomer tournament and now he's the newcomer king. And everyone's like all slapping him on the back, saying, "Hey, you did it, bud! You won! You're awesome! You have a title! You're based, kid!" And he goes to the this Shogi Science Club, and they throw this big party for him. He he starts crying. He gets all watery eyed, and he says, "Excuse me, I gotta go to the bathroom." But then it cuts to him in the bathroom. He's got his glasses off. He's wiping the tears away. He's just sobbing out of pure happiness because you did it, Ray. You have taken your first undisputed W. There are no strings attached to this. There's no like, oh, I won, but at what cost? I'm still empty on the inside. No, you've got your friends. You've found the place where you belong. And he even says, in no uncertain terms, for like, I'm pretty sure the first time throughout this entire show, he says, and I quote, "I am happy."
He does in fact say that. And he even says, this is so based of him. He's like, I'm not sure how long this happiness will last, but I don't care because
Yeah,
I'm happy right now, and
you
that's
know
all that matters.
And then he's like, you know what? To make sure I never forget this happiness, even if it does come to an end one day, I'm gonna go down to fucking Japanese Barnes and Noble and pick up a diary just to write all this shit in. And it's so sweet. It's
So,
so
actually, funny thing
it
about
did
that
bring a smile
scene,
to my face.
I I related so much just with Ray getting a diary because uh, I didn't have a diary when I first watched it, but now, like a month after I finished the show, I started one, and it's a Google Doc, and it has 100,000 words in it.
God damn.
I write a lot.
Make that be your 1,000 subscriber special. Just release the diary.
Oh God, no!
The diary of a
no!
Crunchy Bagels kid.
That would be hell. Also, I found the line that you were talking about. So it's at the very. It is literally the first line of the episode. Hayashida Sensei exclaims, "Anti-bullying measures," and I think that's where you got the misconception from. But as far as I can tell, there's no point in the episode where Ray is specifically planning on implementing them in his own school.
Didn't he?
He's just asking about
when he said anti-bullying measures. Didn't he like write out a whole book full of them and said he wanted to implement them in his high school because he couldn't exactly do it at middle school?
I mean, I went through the conversation and there was nothing like that. He has a notebook in his hand to write down everything Hayashida is telling him. But as far as I can tell, there's nothing in the scene where he's like, oh, I'm going to implement these at my high school. Hayashida Sensei asks him if Ray's being bullied, and Ray's like, nah, fam, it's this girl named Hina, and I want to help her out. And then they continue talking about helping her out.
All right, let me see if I can't find myself because like there's just no way. I cannot be.
Who's the dementia brain? That is the question.
I can't be gaslighting myself here. It's just not possible. 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, here,
okay.
bring up your own talking point while I go like.
All right,
roll this shit out.
So what I like about this episode, or this block of episodes in particular, Ray's goal for this block is very much, he wants to become needed. He wants other people to rely on him. He wants to be of value to other people's lives. And that really is, it feels like such a logical progression of his character and such a natural place for the themes of the story to go. Because the first season is really about Ray breaking out of his shell in the first place and learning that, hey, other people, they're not half bad. They're not gay and cringe. They're actually pretty epic. And so Ray has learned that. He's learned that, hey, Nikaido and the Kawamotos are based. So how can I get them to rely on me? And I love how Ray is literally so clueless as to how to go about this that he's like, yeah, I'm just going to give them money. Anytime Ray's being goofy is absolutely god tier Kino. But, you know, he asks Hayashida about how to be relied on, and Hayashida's like, you know, I know how it feels to be relied on. And it's just really great. Another great Ray moment. This is just completely random. It's not even like thematic or deep or anything, but it's in episode 3 when Nikaido accuses Ray of being a fake herbivore shogi player. And what that means is that Nikaido accuses Ray of having... He's basically, in the conversation, Nikaido's saying, I'm going to destroy this guy in my next shogi match, and then I'm going to become like the shogi champion and take on Soya, and I'm going to be the greatest shogi player there ever was, a la Ash. And Ray's like, okay, cool, bro, but, you know, be a bit more realistic. And Nikaido's like, no, dude, you don't actually believe that. Deep down, behind that mask of yours where you're pretending that you don't care, you know what you're thinking? Oh, I've got this shogi tournament in the bag. You know, I can just sort of... I don't even have to try that hard to beat everyone. I'll just, you know, if I lose one match, I can just make it up later. Yeah, I bet that's what you're thinking, Ray. And Ray at first denies it, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'm nothing like that. And then he thinks about it harder, and he's like, wait, Wait, hold on. No, I'm exactly like that. Wait, that's my exact thought process. And he runs out of the room blushing, which is absolutely great. Yeah, like I said, any time where Ray's being goofy is a great moment because he's so. That's what that's what's great about him is that he's so rarely goofy, but when he is, it just puts the biggest smile on your face, and you're like, yes, yes, you gotta be like that, Ray. You gotta lighten up. So has the gaslighting? Have you figured out who the gaslighter and the gaslightee is?
I guess it really was me. I could have maybe it was the line anti-bullying measures, and then you know what it was? It was also the word proposal that he brought up because I was like, oh, okay, is he going to uh, submit a proposal to like the school for to implement anti-bullying measures? And I guess I connected two dots that I don't I will defend myself here and say I don't blame myself for making this connection that wasn't there within the show, and it did turn out to be it was all home tutoring stuff. It wasn't she Ray wasn't going to just straight up hand a shit ton of money to the Kawamotos. He was going to pay them in for like the cost of home tutoring and anything to help them out because they're
Yeah, that
he
was it. And he
yeah
was like, he also mentions court fees, assuming that a bullying case would make it all the way to court. I mean, I guess it could, but
yeah that's where I got it confused. So I guess I was the gaslighter the whole time.
I feel like that's we've really hit all the main points for Ray. Although I guess you could. Do you have anything to say about him wanting other people to rely on him? Because that was what I was mainly going on about.
It's just a good step up for him. He's taken responsibility for himself, for his own well-being, and now that he's able to do that, he's able to uh try to like put himself out there for other people, which is very commendable. Shows how much he's grown. Ray's becoming a good, outstanding young boy in a pinwheel hat kind of lad.
Yeah, and this also marks. There's one moment where that sort of marks the end of like his self-absorbedness, where so Ray's going up against this guy. You said his name is Junpei, and that sounds right to me. I don't actually have it memorized or written down. I literally call him Baldy in my notes.
Like my problem with him, as a quick aside, is that they do this thing where they put his backstory in after he's already been defeated.
I think. Well, I do really like that moment, but I see where you're coming from.
I like them going into how he purposefully stalled his game with Nikaido because he was worried that his shogi skills were slipping and he was gonna lose his newcomer title, so newcomer king title. So when he heard that Nikaido was sick, instead of trying to just beat him outright because he thought he couldn't, he just stalled the game out purposefully and in hopes of his condition acting up, and it did, and it cost him the win. I like
I'm not
the inner conflict
actually. I'm not actually 100% sure on that because although that's what Ray thinks, in the actual match with him, we get some of his monologue, and Junpei specifically says that he didn't have a move that could win him the game, so he purposefully did 4
Stalled.
straight draws, and then that would cause them to rematch so that he could maybe have a chance of winning the next game.
Well, that's still like stalling.
Well, yeah, it is stalling, but I just wasn't sure if in his mind he was doing it so that Nikaido's sickness would act up. Although that's certainly what Ray thought. Ray was definitely on that. Oh, he's definitely trying to make Nikaido suffer grind set.
I think Ray thinks he did it like purely out of malice to be like, I will do whatever it takes to be to keep my title.
Okay, you know what? I just figured this out in my mind. Junpei had acknowledged that Nikaido was sick and knew what he was doing, but also justified it as I don't have a winning move. That's what it was.
Yeah, he didn't enjoy that, like, he did it, and he felt he did have some inner turmoil about it, but it was like, well, it's either I know I can't beat him like straight up in shogi, so it's either I lose and lose my title, or I stall him out. I play lame and I win games. And in this case,
Yeah, and
win the game by making his incurable condition act up.
yeah, he doesn't necessarily want it to act up, but he's acknowledging that that could happen by continuing the match. And Ray, he sort of comes up with like this supervillain fan theory in his head where he's like, "Oh my god, I hate this guy so much. I want him dead. How could you make Nikaido suffer?" But he's sort of, you know, in the middle of the match, he's going to make this like super flashy, super aggressive play, but he stops himself last minute
And then
upon
Nikaido
remembering.
psychically talks to him
Yeah.
through the shogi pieces, which I thought was just a little bit goofy. I get what they were going for. I just thought the way they framed it and directed it kind of made it look like he was talking through the pieces themselves.
I didn't get that vibe because it's like a frame from a different episode way back when, but I see where you're coming from there. But Nikaido is basically it's way back in the first block of season 1 when Nikaido's like, "Don't try to look cool. Just play the game, play it well, do good." And Ray stops himself. He would like cuffs his hand into a fist in order to stop himself from placing the piece, puts it back and places another piece with a more defensive, well-rounded move. And it's basically, this is the very end of him basically being so stuck in his own head and only thinking about himself because he's like, "Man, I'm always like this. I'm letting my own feelings get in the way of not only playing shogi, but I'm also, basically coming up with this fan theory in my head of thinking this guy is like absolute scum when maybe there's another, maybe he isn't all bad, and using that as an excuse to make this incredibly reckless move purely out of my own emotions when that will actively harm not only myself, but also will disappoint the people around me. I need to think about them, and I need to not be so reckless." And that's sort of the end of him being so self-absorbed. And hold on, my dad's trying to talk to me.
Do you have any silverware?
No.
Okay. Any dishes? If you got any dishes or silverware?
All right, I'm back.
Okay.
That was pretty much the end of my point, so you can continue.
I'm trying to think of a new point to go on to. I guess we can just go straight up into the to the bullying thing.
Yeah, because the bullying arc is pretty much, I'd say, the main arc of this block of episodes, and it also, spoiler alert, continues into the next arc, or the next block of episodes quite a bit.
Yeah,
it is a huge deal.
I was surprised to see the bullying thing becoming the anti-bullying arc is real. I thought this was gonna be like handled all in one episode. Like the end of episode 3 is like the teaser for it, the setup, and then we deal with it all in one episode. Because I thought that was just the type of show this is.
That would be
this has
so
long-lasting consequences. This is like a major turning point in the show itself.
I have a personal anecdote now that you've brought up the end of episode 3. All right, so the first time I was watching Sangatsu no Lion Season 2, it was, a school night, right? I had to wake up early the next day at like 6:30 a.m. at the latest to board the bus. I needed my sleep. And I was watching the first 3 episodes of Sangatsu no Lion, not knowing what was ahead.
Hey, they had the perfect sleep aid.
No cap, that is like the most, me watching that final bit of episode 3 is like the most fearful I have been for a character in anime ever. Because it's like, I got the gist that she was being bullied because that's what the episode was building to, with Ray going into his backstory of being bullied, and it's basically written all over her with the slipper missing and all that. But the extent to it being unknown was like terrifying to me. And I was like, hold on. Wait, I like Hina. Hold on. I need to watch the next episode. There's no way I can wake up. There's no way I can miss this. Screw this. I'm missing sleep tonight. I need to watch episode 4.
You fool.
And that's what happens.
You could have done the thing with your brain where, like, when you watch a show that leaves off on a cliffhanger that you're into enough, maybe you can, like, trick your brain into dreaming up, like, a what-if scenario on how you think it could end, and then, like, experience it as your dream.
I suck at dreaming. I could not manage that.
It can't be controlled. It can only, like, it just happens sometimes.
But yeah, this arc is just so well done in every way. And we're not even at the baller.
Yeah, I was gonna say
yet.
we're not even. I don't think it's like done. Like maybe like I don't know.
Oh, there are huge turning points that you are not aware of.
I was gonna say, like, if even though, like, come, what was it, episode 10? Yeah, 10 of this block. Even though it feels like it could be resolved at this point, there are, like, aspects of this that have not gotten or received a proper resolution that I feel like have to come at some point in this season. And, like, this is a big turning point for the entire series. I was not expecting the Hina bullying arc to be so wide reaching.
Yeah, it is just honestly, like, the Hina monologues, where, well, I guess they're not really monologues, it's more like an abridged version of what she's telling the other characters and describing her experiences with. But they contain some of, like, the most creative visuals in the show, I'd say. Especially, I forget exactly what episode it is, but it's, like, all red and black. Yeah, when Hina's basically thinking about how angry she is at the bullies and how she wants to get back at them.
Talking about it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is good.
It's so good because it's all red and black. It's, like, got this very visceral texture to everything.
Hina's gonna start her school shooter arc.
It's rendered in, like, squigglemation, I think it's called.
Takahashi, like, you're cool. Don't come to school tomorrow.
I mean, she's got the glare down. I screen capped that when she's just absolutely seething at her chair. Right here. Tell me that ain't. Tell me that couldn't be a school shooter glare.
Yeah, it's literally. Like, she pulls out her bag to pulls out the Uzi.
Hey, Hina, your bag is it seems a bit heavy today. Mayhaps, what is the issue? Oh, fuck.
So the whole thing with Hina is that she's become the new target of these bullies who previously targeted her old childhood friend Chiho, and she got bullied so badly by these bitches that she this was, like, hit way harder and got, like, way too real than I thought it was going to get. Like, at first it was just being like fuck me, sorry. At first it's gonna be like, she's just moving schools, and it's like, oh, that's sad, but you know, it's real. It's, like, pretty realistic. It's the kind of thing that does happen to young kids. But apparently she got so fucked up and traumatized by this bullying, she's in mental rehab.
Yeah, we're shown more of this later, but Chiho, they basically moved away to where her father was working, and it's not necessarily like actually, no, it might be a psychologist, but she's, like, on this farm in this very local community that's, like, super tight-knit. Basically a place to, like, isolate herself from society. And because she is just that messed up and traumatized now due to this, that she has to be pretty much isolated from the world in order to slowly come back. Like, she can't even at this point she's so messed up that she can't even talk to Hina, where the note, so Hina sends Chiho a note, and is like, yo, how you doing, what's poppin', bro? And the response is from Chiho's mom, and it's basically like, yo, look, Chiho can't talk right now, she's kind of going through stuff, so
they
sorry
show
about
this
that,
one
man.
shot in particular of Chiho in like the therapy, and she's like doing, it's like the almost parodical, how like little textbook example it is of her like putting the wooden shapes in the holes kind of thing, like playing with that toy. Because and what I gleaned from that was like they fucked her up so bad, they turned her into like a really shy, almost like a hermit. And I was like, God,
Yeah,
this got way too sad and way too real.
Yeah, you aren't far off. It is essentially what she's going through, and Hina, she is seething about this. She is not one to take that lying down. So she basically, she's thinking about what they did to Chiho in the gym, and the bullies in question are basically just laughing it off, like, what? Chiho didn't stay at school? Bruh, how weak is she? And Hina just, bam, it's like a flip is
A
switched in her mind. Switch is flipped. I always mess up that phrase whenever I say it, but she just tackles them and beats them up, and they have to be separated. And so ever since she did that, stood up for Chiho in such a public and obvious way, the bullies then turn towards her, and no one is willing to do anything about it. Not the teachers, not the other classmates. The other classmates,
the homeroom teacher who I want to kill more than anyone in this show.
Yeah. Oh, next block is gonna have some homeroom teacher moments, man. But for now, she is, one of the most hateable characters in fiction.
Yeah, like when it got to the part at first when it was just like, oh, it's like it's all just a bunch of harmless pranks, you shouldn't get so worked up about these sort of things. Like, yeah, that was to be expected for like the kind of story that this has to be told in. But then like straight up when she walks into the class to see all of the straight up profanity being written in graffiti on the chalkboard about Hina by the bullies, and she just then turns to Hina for an explanation and doesn't even be like, hey, who the fuck is responsible for writing all this shit on the wall? And she's just like trying to, and then she has the audacity to say, why can't you just get along with everyone, Hina? It's like, ooh, this bitch.
I love how Hayashida
Sensei.
I love how Hayashida Sensei, upon hearing what went down at the school, he like literally flips out so much that he's like, come on, we're going to the school right now, Ray. And Ray has to hold him back and go like, no, Hayashida, it won't help. And not gonna lie, I was there with Hayashida, man. I want to see them confront each other, based Hayashida
Bro,
Sensei
if that was my daughter,
the homeroom teacher,
I'd be like, this fucking whore.
And so for the most part, this arc in this block of episodes is just the gradual worsening of the bullying. There so far has been no real, well, actually that's a lie, because Takahashi approaches Hina one day and he's like, yo, let's play baseball, or not play baseball, but rather play catch, and he throws a baseball at her. But and all of Takahashi's friends are with Hina too. And they're like, they're jealous because Takahashi brought a girl, which is absolutely amazing. I loved that moment. That's adorable.
Typical Chadahashi behavior.
Yeah, and so I love this line in particular where Takahashi's like, we need to show them that there are people siding with Chiho too. And this is essentially the start of a sort of underground resistance, as it were, against the bullies. Not nearly as dramatic as I made it seem, but Takahashi does walk up to the three bully girls, and he's like, yo, want to play catch? And they're all excited because they're like, yo, Takahashi's so handsome, he's so cool. He's paying attention to me. We can play catch. And then he just sends
hurls
this like
the hardest fucking
yeah.
fastball right at their heads, being like, "Hey, come on, we just started."
It like literally bends. It like warps the metal in the fence as it hits it. Yeah, like Takahashi nearly took 3 lives right there.
He is probably my favorite character.
I don't blame you. And so that's the main piece of positive progress in terms of like actual at school against the bullying. And in terms of Hina's mental state, well, that is sort of collapsing at the seams, let's say. Episode 4, she cries 3 separate times.
Yeah, there's a lot of Hina crying in this block. There was one moment in episode 6 in particular. It was right after the based chatting of Takahashi with all the catch stuff, and it was this one, probably my favorite scene in the entire show thus far. Directing wise, that's the word. Where it's this like whole shot of like, the sounds of a classroom and like the sounds of the outside, like there are birds chirping, people talking, a bunch, like kind of like white noise in a sense. Different cuts to, like all these different environments, and then it all cuts to silence to one shot of Hina staring in like monochrome colors. That we find out that's on the chalk. She's staring at the chalkboard with all the profanities, being like, Hina Kawamoto hangs out with boys. She's a perverted girl. She's a fucking bitch slut. And it's like,
it's good directing when you described that scene and like the visceral images of that exact scene just play out in my mind as it did in the episode. Like that is the sort of sequence that sticks with you. In general,
and I was like, damn,
that.
I want to kill these 10-year-olds. If I had a nickel for every time I said that.
Oh god, you'd be rich. But Shaft seems to have an obsession with almost like clinical feeling pure white backgrounds. The first example everyone thinks of is Bakemonogatari with the park scene, where just the entire world has been cast a pure white, save for the toys in the playground and the the swing sets and the bench and all of that. But everything around them is just pure white. And this scene goes hard with that, where just the entire classroom has this just such a palpable, intense feeling. It's almost like the kind of scene that gets you hyped to see where it continues, because it's so well done. And because they recolor the entire classroom in order to hard sell the scene as well as it can, the classroom almost feels like it's become a war zone.
Yeah, it's real. It's real sad to watch this when Hina's one of your favorite characters, to see her go through all this unjust suffering. But even then, even like with all of the pain that she's going through, base as fuck Hina, when she's confronted by Ray after running away and being like, oh, like, even though, why did Chio have to like suffer all this bullying? It's not fair. And I know that like people want me to apologize for what I did to the bullies for attacking them, and I know maybe it wasn't like it was all I could think to do, but you know what? I don't fucking regret it. I don't regret it for a second, because I have no doubt in my heart that was the right thing to do. And like I was like, hell fucking yeah, Hina. Don't take shit from nobody.
Is a warrior.
And then
that scene in particular is probably one of, if not the best in the show. I mean, I can't think of one off the top of my head that's better. Maybe there is in the next block, but
bro, like the determination and the absolute resolution of this. What, she's like actually 10? This 10-year-old girl?
Not 10. I think she was 13 in season 1, I think. Or was it? No, I think she might have been I think she was 14 in season 1.
Yeah, this 14-year-old girl. This is why I hate anime ages, by the way, because Hina is 14, but I'm supposed to believe that Kitagawa from Dress Up Darling is fucking 15. No way. That's
Yeah,
neither here
that
nor there.
is insanity.
Yeah.
Okay, she's actually 13 in season 1, so she's 14 now.
Okay.
Or at least according to Annie List.
Okay, so yeah, she's going through that, and then based as fuck Grandpa Kawamoto commends her for doing the right thing, which is good because she did have every right to beat the shit out of that bully for standing up for her friend. And she gets a big cry for being like I'm for being vindicated, for being justified in her actions, even when her big sis didn't know exactly what to tell her.
Episode 4 of this block of episodes in particular really hit me this time because the show just does such a good job of getting you into Hina's head in that episode, of showing you like all right, so not gonna lie, all right, so this is one of the episodes that I've seen 3 times, and the second time through I had a bit of a cynical, jaded Crunchy Bagels moment where I was like, isn't Hina crying a bit too much? Aren't they overdoing it a little?
I'm not gonna lie to you. It didn't happen in this episode, but throughout the course of this block, I was feeling like, like you have her cry every single time, it becomes a little less impactful.
I mean, honestly, this time rewatching it, I had the opposite reaction. In episode 4, it was because it just hit me so much harder for some reason, where I was watching it and it just did such a good job of getting you into Hina's head, where she literally, she's looking at the world around her. She feels like her life is ruined. She's like, thinking back on her old school days of, her and Chiho in grade school. And she's like, Ray takes her to the library and she's like, it's been so long since I've been to the library. And I used to sit here with Chiho. She's getting nostalgic about better times because she feels like literally her life is ruined and that it will never be the same again in this moment. And she is like devastated at that. And so when she cried 3 times in a single episode, I was like, you know what? This time watching it, I just resonated so much with her position in that moment that I was like, you know what? Fair. I would probably do the same thing. And yeah, it just does such a good job of portraying her emotions.
I do maintain that I feel like they abused her crying, like not just in that one episode. Like that much is fine because that's like the big yeah, I'm getting bullied and this shit fucking sucks, bro. But it feels like they hit us with it, I don't know what, fucking 10 times? I want to say 10.
Were you keeping count?
I wasn't
10
keeping
feels
count.
10 feels a
like
bit
10.
much to me.
Okay, maybe 8.
Even 8 feels too much. I'd go with like 5 or 6.
I mean, there were like 3 times in just episode 4.
Yeah, but I'd say the bulk of it is in episode 4, because after that, it mostly does a good job of like like the screenshot I showed of Hina having the school shooter stare. There are multiple scenes of Hina just being dead inside instead of crying. But there is also an interesting aspect to this, and I think this may have been what Chika Umino had in mind in showing Hina crying so much specifically, which is that Ray, he has his moments, he cries sometimes, but think about how, literally in episode 3, he, thinks back to how he responded to his parents dying. He was like, I didn't cry, and I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, upon him seeing Hina at the bridge crying. And he cries a few times throughout the show, but it is very sparing in comparison to what Hina does. And I think there is a deliberate contrast being drawn here, where, Hina is basically a leaky faucet, and Ray is so much more guarded with his emotions and doesn't show them as readily, that, Hina probably cries, I'm gonna be real with you, as much in this block of episodes as Rei does in the entirety of season 1.
I feel more like the entirety of the show.
Entirety of the show. That's actually more accurate, you're right.
And I love how I wrote down in my notes, Ray enters his pedo arc, parentheses, devotes his life to this 14-year-old.
This, you can tell Chika Umino was so proud of this scene because it basically determines like how Rei interacts with Hina throughout the rest of the season. Where what's
You're my
happening here,
savior,
it's very
Hina.
yeah, the show is kind of vague with it at this point, although you can read through the lines, but it is a little more explicit with it later on. I wouldn't consider this a spoiler, so I'm gonna just go ahead and say it. Where what's happening is that Rei basically feels like he's saved by Hina. Where, he's thinking back earlier, last episode, about his time being bullied, and he's like, yo, like at the time, back when he was a kid, he thought it was normal. He just wrote it off as, I'm going through a normal kid thing. Bullying happens. It is what it is. I'ma just not treat it like a big deal. And he was afraid of getting adults involved with it because he thought, hey, this is normal. If I tell them about this completely normal thing that's happening to me, well, they're just gonna look at me weird and they're gonna be like, what? You're complaining about being bullied? Bro, there are people in Africa starving. Do you think you have big problems, Ray? But now in episode 4, Hina's like, yo, this is wrong. This is messed up. I'm gonna do something about it. And Ray's, it basically makes him reconsider his entire childhood. And he's like, oh, yeah, what happens to me was messed up. It was wrong. And here is this middle school
Opportunity
girl
to
basically
do right
saying,
by someone else to keep her from going through what I went through.
yeah. That's the gist of how he acts towards her. But also the line, like, you are my savior. He feels like Hina saying that pretty much almost like saved him saved his childhood self from bullying in a sense, where it's like, oh, it's like he can finally come to terms with what happens to him thanks to what Hina said here. He's like, it's like Hina doesn't know, it doesn't have any clue how much she affected Rei in this scene. Huh?
I said, does she know? Like the
From her
thumbnail.
perspective, right? Sangatsu no Lion theory, you get a red arrow, and oh yeah, you circle Hina's face. Does she know? Impact font.
Speaking of Hina's face, the smile that she gives Rei when she has her hair down. Hear me out.
That is the exact
if she's
caption you
14,
sent
I'm
me.
14.
It's got, she's so cute in that shot. I literally, the first time I got to that scene, screenshotted
it's so shaggy. Look at her bangs and the one long strand from like the top middle going all the way across.
She's so cute. Remember back in the first episode of the podcast, remember who I said my favorite character was?
Hina.
Yeah, and we're getting to why that is.
Yeah, she is, as far as like main characters go, she is she's definitely my favorite and definitely the most interesting to see develop through the narrative, because she's got some big problems right now, and I want to see how they get resolved.
I'm trying to think, is there any other big bullying moments that we want to talk about?
I feel like we covered all like the big stuff. She
Actually,
gets like a stomach
one more
ache
thing. Oh yeah. So she has a school field trip, and she's gonna be basically lodging with people who aren't going to be so keen to talk to her. They aren't the bullies themselves, as far as I can tell, but her group doesn't want anything to do with her because she is, being bullied, and being seen with her is taboo in her class right now, and that gives her a big ol' stomach ache. So, based Rei Kiriyama after his shogi match with Junpei, he sees one of the shogi players at his at the shogi hall talking about this stomach medicine that Shimada gave him, and Rei is like, "Yo, can I cop that?" And so he cops that, and then he runs off, takes a taxi, goes off to where not a taxi, I think he takes a train, whatever. Goes to where Hinata has her field trip, and finds her next to the river and gives her the stomach medicine. Based scene, by the way. And then the other moment that I was going to mention is that Rei wanting to beat the ever-living shit out of the people who bullied her is so based.
It is, in fact, very based.
It is. Remember, kids, you should always beat up middle schoolers. This is a lesson you should take into your adult years.
It's my favorite pastime, as any good-natured American.
Remember, they always deserve it.
There's not a single one that doesn't, even your kid. Your kid
Eat
probably
your
deserves
children.
the most.
If you take anything away from this podcast, throughout its entire run, throughout all the episodes of this podcast, if you take away a single message, it's beat your kids.
No. Don't beat your kids. Send your kids our way. We'll beat them for you, so you don't have to. You don't have to hold the game. We'll do that. We'll do that solid for you. That one's on us.
And with that, it's time for me to look through my notes again to find something else to talk to.
Like, high key, I was way more invested in the bullying than I was any part of the shogi. I mean, well, the Nikaido stuff I was kind of into, but as soon as the bullying arc went into motion, I was just like, yeah, the shogi's nice and all, but I kind of want to see how this bullying thing plays out.
I will definitely say that the shogi here is taking a backseat to the bullying arc by far. Because last arc was obviously, the big emotional coom of all the shogi stuff with Shimada and all of that. And now, it's taken a backseat to develop Hinata and show more of the Kawamoto sisters. And Rei's whole thing is that he's going through a few tournaments and he wants to, make money in order to give to the Kawamotos, which he luckily doesn't do. And he goes up against this dude named Hachi, who is an amazing character. Probably my favorite in terms of like pure, just fun entertainment value, just enjoyable to watch. Hachi's shogi match against Rei is probably my favorite because his whole thing is that he has a bunch of tics. He's called the Irritated Prince of the East. And he has a bunch of tics like flapping his fan, clicking his tongue constantly, tapping his foot, and he slams his shogi pieces against the board every time he moves and makes his moves super quickly without even thinking about them. And the entire match is basically Rei fighting the urge to deck him. It's amazingly entertaining.
Yeah, well, speaking of that, shout out to literally the worst moment in this entire show so far, where after Rei beats the loud dude and he leaves, everyone in the place gets mad at Rei for some reason.
I mean, I like that scene. I think it's funny.
What the fuck did Rei do wrong?
Rei didn't do anything wrong, and the show I don't think is trying to say that he did anything wrong because he had
the characters are certainly reasonable, acting like it.
Yeah, they literally the show isn't casting judgment on Rei for that, but the characters are because they literally say, I think God, I can't remember his name, but yellow hair is literally like, listen, we tried to fix the irritated Prince of the East. It ain't happening. He's been like this since he was a kid. You gotta make him stop buzzing.
What
Which I
the fuck
thought
was
was
he
funny.
supposed to do? Just tell him outright, be like, hey, like, can you like cut that out, please? Which, by the way, anyone
no,
else
I
could have
think
done
it's
at any
funny.
time. Because especially in a fucking shogi hall where you kind of need like fucking complete concentration and as much quiet as possible to play the game and focus. So him making all of these noises like repeatedly, I feel like someone would be like, "Hey, can you like shut the fuck up?"
I feel like that's been tried and Hachi just continued doing it. But yeah, Hachi is a fun character. I love him as irritating as he is. And then obviously there's Junpei, who I just love that the show takes a moment. I know you have the criticism with it taking place after the match, which is fair, but I just like he's such a based character for no reason. He literally races pigeons, does shogi, he gardens. Like, come on, man, he's so based. And uh, I get the feeling that Chika Umino was like working on the chapter after this, because admittedly it does kind of come out of nowhere, and I get the feeling Chika Umino was working on the next chapter, but was still sort of workshopping it, so she quickly whipped together a Junpei chapter and was like, yo, let's show more of this dude's life. Which is, at the very least, in line with what the show is about, which is, building this huge interconnected web of characters. And I do get the feeling that Junpei will appear again someday, but admittedly, yeah, it does feel a little out of nowhere. But I still enjoyed it. Mostly just because Junpei is such a based character and somehow got me to care about him with like a single chapter.
It was a nice look into his life. I just wish it had come literally just swap the timing of when that scene happens and when Ray
Someone's knocking on my
reaches.
door.
Just before Dad goes to bed, get the dishes or something. There's a
All right, I'm back. What were you saying?
I was just saying, like, I enjoyed the look into his past. I just really would have appreciated if they just swapped the timing of when that happens with the match where Ray just beats him, because it's just a little bit hard to get invested in this guy when his stake in the immediate narrative has been dealt with.
That is a fair criticism. I will give you that.
The last
Nikaido.
thing, I mean, we kind of already talked about Nikaido. I feel like enough.
Well, there is one other thing I want to mention about him. And so basically, Shimada goes into his backstory with Nikaido, where basically his chess tutor was, getting old and he wasn't supposed to, bring up anyone else. But then, he suddenly decided one day, yo, Nikaido, he's kind of based. Let's,
He's built
bring him up.
different.
Yeah, he's built different. And Shimada, they're training together and, they're bringing up Nikaido as a good player. But then, Shimada basically learns of his illness, or rather he learned about it years ago from a presentation basically that he did at a shogi tournament for children. And, Shimada remembers that. And at one point, he's on a losing streak, and Shimada's like, yo, I'm gonna throw Nikaido a bone here. But Nikaido, he realizes what's happening, and he's like, bro, that's cringe. if I'm not strong in the shogi world, where am I going to be strong? And I feel like that's so characterizing for Nikaido, where he's basically gone through life with this conveniently unspecified terminal illness that's constantly inhibiting him
Yeah,
and
he
stopping
straight
him
up
from
cannot
doing.
do physical activity without him passing out.
Yeah, he just has to sit by and watch all the other children play football, and he just plays shogi all day. But shogi is like the one place where it's sort of like what Ray was going through, where it's the one place where he can play on an even footing as everyone else. And that means a lot to him. So when he's taken as a weakling in shogi, he's like, "Bro, what? No, don't do that. Don't go easy on me." And I thought that was pretty neat.
That was a very very strong moment for Nikaido. It really opened like my kind of opened my eyes to like just exactly how just from an objective standpoint, like not as say as a put down, but like just kind of a sad and almost pathetic life that he leaves, and he can't help it because he didn't ask to have this illness, he didn't choose to have it. But it just does nothing but hinder him, and he's to his credit, he's living his best life in spite of it.
Yeah, he's making the most of the situation. So, before I butted in with the Nikaido stuff, you were about to say something?
The last thing that I wanted to say is the setup for what is I imagine going to be the final arc of the anime, where uh now that Ray is the newcomer king and he is on track to one day take a amazing title like the child prodigy that he is, the shogi league or whatever, they're like, hey, let's set up this special challenge event for the newcomer king. You, Ray, you're going to play Soma, and to as like this big, it's not a title match, it's just like like an exhibition, it's just like just a big like, hey, here's the newcomer king and here's like the best shogi player in Japan, let's put him in a match together for the first time and see what happens. Like
Yeah, it's
the
a
current
big
Meijin
event
versus
to
a
get
possible future Meijin.
sponsorships.
Yeah, they also say to do it for money, but because their next championship, which I guess is like for another title between Shimada and one of the league guys who's a really good player. That's gonna be coming up, but that's not very marketable because they're two old fucks.
It's such a hilarious scene, and it's such an interesting thing because you wouldn't really think about it when making a shogi anime, but it's like they need to market these matches somehow, and two crippled old men with wrinkles and receding hairlines don't really make for good marketing. And so instead, they have the handsome Soya and the equally handsome and stunning and young Ray up in a match together.
They've got Ray and they've got negative filter Ray.
Yeah. And yeah, that is coming up, and it is based.
Yeah,
Can't wait for the
looking
second
forward to
one.
that because
Admittedly.
they've gone out of their way to set up Soma as the big final boss of the shogi world. He has been challenged by some guys like the big cake eating bear guy, but like at the start of the season, but he was unable to defeat him. Soma's still the number one shogi player in the world, and even to the point where he doesn't eat just sugar, he eats straight glucose directly to feed his brain, and then drops like a shit ton of lemons in his tea.
All right, I must ask, why are you calling him Soma?
Oh shit! Am I getting his name wrong?
Yeah, you've been getting his name wrong the entire podcast.
Wait, what the fuck is his name?
So yeah.
So yeah, why the fuck if I write Soma then?
Uh oh yeah, I remembered what I was gonna say. So admittedly,
Oh, okay. I wrote. I get it.
uh
I just pieced in my head as like, oh, because Meijin Soma just like rolls off the tongue in my head better than Meijin Soya. It was the M's, it
yeah,
was the
that's fair.
consonants.
So admittedly, the match between Rei and Soya, at least the first time I watched the show, it was the part that had what I considered to be the biggest flaw with the anime. And I am very curious as to what I'll think going back to it. Because it wasn't a deal breaker to me. It didn't break the scene. There were still some like absolutely Kino moments from, Soya and Rei being together doing this match. Like literally some of the best moments in the show. But there was one bit that I am very curious as to how I will feel about it going back. But obviously, this makes no sense me saying it now. You'll just have to wait for the context of the next episode that will inevitably come.
And speaking of next episodes, I think we're done.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have anything else to say.
The last note that I wanted to bring up, which would not have fit a whole talking point, uh, past like 2 minutes, is I did appreciate this is twofold now because I just realized this is the only bit of best girl Kyoko that we've gotten in the entire season thus far. With we get a peek into the dangerous life that Kyoko was living with Gotoh, and they develop Gotoh a bunch because we find out that the reason he's such a tight wound asshole is because his wife is in the hospital.
Yeah, that was sort of brought up in the first block of or in the first season rather. But I think this is the first time we actually see her in the hospital, if I'm not mistaken. I might be
Um,
mixing that up.
this is definitely the first time we see her in the hospital, and then
Because I know
uh,
it was mentioned in the second half of season 2.
and then it what I liked about it is that it brought in a lot of insight of how Goto's home life is and how exactly Kyoko is trying to fuck with it, trying to insert herself, being like, it kind of seems like on the outset at first, you feel like, oh, are Kyoko and Gotoh seeing each other, and is Gotoh like maybe taking advantage of Kyoko in the absence of his wife? It feels like it happened one time maybe, and then Goto was just like, "Nah, you know what? No, that was a bad idea. You should stay away from me." And now, because Kyoko is such a menace to society, especially when she fucking transforms into a cat and sneaks into his into his apartment, which I very much laughed at. Uh, it seems like now he is not 100% able to push her away, but is also able to be like, yeah, no, like we're not getting involved in any like kind of affairs anymore. Like I'll put up with you. You can stay the night, but you can't do anything. Like I'm not gonna do anything to you. It feels like
I
he
love
just
how
appreciates the
Goto
company.
literally distrusts Kyoko so much that he ties her up and then goes to bed. Like,
Yeah,
good night,
it's not
Kyoko.
that
And Kyoko's
he.
like,
Yeah, you would think it would be the opposite. You'd think it'd be like, man, I don't trust myself to not make a move on you when you're like sleeping in the same bed as I am, so maybe I'll like go into another room. No, he straight ties her to like a light post in the or a lamp in the room on the wall, and then it just goes to sleep.
and Kyoko's like kicking and screaming, molding about it. Great
Just just
scene.
just let me fuck you, dude. But it's also it sucks because that's the only bit of Kyoko we get throughout this entire block, which is very very cringe.
And I guess that's about it.
Yep. I'm looking through all my notes. That's pretty much it. We're now just gonna be on to the final block of Sangatsu because there's still no word of a season 3. You think Shaft will ever have it in them to be like, you know what, it's time to dig it all out of the toy chest, dust it off.
I mean, it. Granted, season 2 did come out while the Shaft staff exodus was happening, and they were, gradually getting lower on staff as the season was airing, and they did still manage to make it look good. So, I mean, maybe, but they definitely have to get into a more secure financial position to do that. And their first priority would probably be Monogatari anyway, if they're ever going to make a comeback. But I wouldn't say it's out of the picture. The sad thing is, though, that if Shaft don't come back to it, no other studio will. Like, I highly doubt any other studio is gonna get Sangatsu no Lion.
I was gonna say maybe KyoAni could do it, but then this is so closely I like interwoven with and Shinbo's DNA that it's just like, man,
See,
like
I mean,
who
I get
else? Who
why
else
it would
could you
be
do?
great with KyoAni, but at the same time, it's like it would be it would almost feel jarring if it
Yeah.
went from Shaft to KyoAni. First of all, because it'd be like 10 billion times better animated. But second of all, just completely different directing and different feel to the show. One thing I've said this, I think, every podcast about this show, but Shaft really built a unique identity for this show's comedy scenes. And I just don't think Kyoto Animations would be able to pull off that specific identity.
Yeah, like I can't think of another studio. Like I was gonna say Leiden Films and maybe do like a Call of the Night on it, but
I
that
mean,
we'd end up with
honestly,
an uglier looking show.
yeah, that's literally what I was about to say. Like, I don't want to Sangatsu. The big thing about this show's visuals, because although it doesn't have that much animation overall, but it is so
The artwork is
consistent.
very nice.
Yeah, it has good art, but it's also just so. It's like there's never a moment where the budget completely falls apart. Call of the Night had 2 good-looking episodes and then was like very stilted for the remainder, save for the one cut of Anko that everyone remembers. I don't want that happening to Sangatsu.
Yeah, I struggle to think like in my head it goes. I can only think of KyoAni, and then everyone else is just like just not up to the task. I was gonna say Madhouse, but like maybe Once Upon a Time Madhouse. Definitely not present day Madhouse.
You know what? I'm gonna pull out a weird, the wacky wild card here. David Pro, because they did the Urusei Yatsura adaptation, and it is like actually phenomenal. I would trust them with this show. Not gonna lie. Like, if it's even half as good
Eh,
looking as the Urusei Yatsura adaptation, I think they could pull it off.
I can't think
Urusei
of
Yatsura
a
even has
show.
some wacky directing.
I was gonna say I
Not
can't think
nearly
of.
as distinct as this show, but it's still got some interesting bits, some even some non-diegetic color changes. So hey, there you go.
I was gonna say I can't think of a show in David Pro's filmography that like makes jumps out at me and goes, yeah, these guys would be good to handle Sangatsu.
I mean, to be fair, I'm saying this purely because of Urusei Yatsura.
Yeah, well, and like, well, yeah, those two shows are wildly different in tone and directorial style.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think they could do it. Otherwise, I don't really have a studio in mind.
Well,
So basically,
commenters,
let's
what
hope
do you
Shaft gets their
think?
shit together.
Oh, we can only hope. Isn't that right, commenters? Why don't you let us know what studio you think would be good to take up the Sangatsu torch And while you're at it, let us know what you think of the podcast. Like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to Crunchy's channel, which is popping the fuck off.
Yay. That's me.
And I think that
hopefully I can shout this this podcast out in every single video I do from now on, so that it can get hella subs.
We can only pray. We gotta hit. We have till October. We have till the Onko cast 1 year removed to hit the 1,000 subs in 4,000 hours.
Remember, put our podcasts on an alt tab muted and continue watching them so that we can get more watch time. And while you're at it, do that for my channel too. I want watch time so I can get monetized.
I was considering that, being like, what if I just like leave my computer on overnight and while I'm at work and just like loop the playlist of every podcast.
Not gonna lie, I have at one point put the Tomazaki video on muted while I played Super Paper Mario.
Oh, you filthy cheater.
It only got me 2 hours.
Next you're gonna tell me you put a piece of tape on the D-pad when you were running on the hamster wheel in the hotel to generate the rubies.
Did someone... Hold on. I'm trying to wrap my head around that sentence, because you don't have to get the million, you just go to the secret... Did someone actually get the 1,000,000 rupees by running on the hamster wheel?
Crunchy,
I mean, you can do it.
Let me tell you a secret. When a little baby boy Neon rented Super Paper Mario from Blockbuster, that's how dated this is. Rented it from Blockbuster, when he was just a small, young, strapping boy. He did not know that there was a safe with all of the password, a safe with the password that you could just get all of the treasure from, and he just straight up held the button on the wheel, and he did not like Super Paper Mario because of that.
Well, I wonder why.
I think that'll just about do her for this episode of Castaway Anime. I'm Neon Manta.
Hold on, I didn't have my Google Doc up. And I'm Crispy Trisket.
every time. And you'll see us next time.
See you later.